Hi, this is the Webgeek. We're at the Aquatic Center, checking with some things. Martin is talking to a local reporter. And Susan here is checking and making sure I did things right. We're all enjoying Havasu. We hope to see many people tonight.
This was the very first trip for the new Subaru, and this is actually my first time to Lake Havasu, and it's beautiful. We have really enjoyed the time here. We did our show last night for the wonderful people of Lake Havasu. Everybody had a great time. We had a great audience, and I think everybody had fun with the show. So anyway, we're here to answer your questions and have some fun. Oh, we did a little bit of a photo shoot at a place called London Bridge, which is here in Lake Havasu, and right down by the water. And when I first got Scout, keep it on the plastic, sir. Thank you. That was very polite. When we first brought him out of his kennel right there by the water, there were a bunch of mallard ducks there, and of course, you know, when you bring an apex predator out, the ducks just were terrified and just ran like heck to get as far away as possible. So, but you know, he didn't really care too much. He's wasn't hungry, so he didn't pay much attention to the ducks.
Can talk.
Well, good day. We're at Shagroob's restaurant group,
Barley
Brothers Restaurant here
providing us
in Lake
lunch.
Havasu. They've invited us to lunch. Look at this.
And the view
Rib.
is
It's amazing. This is
gorgeous.
a great meal. Thank you guys for hosting us. We sure appreciate it. And what a view. Beautiful view and a beautiful restaurant. small sample of the animals that we care for at a rescue center up in southern Utah. So let's go ahead and get started on our little program tonight. Most of you recognize my friend here, the emblem of our nation, our national symbol, the bald eagle. The bald eagle is the largest eagle found in North America. We only have 2. We have bald eagles, golden eagles, that's it. That's all the eagles found in North America. Now the bald eagle gets that beautiful white head and white tail when they're 5 years old. Prior to age 5, this is a bald eagle. Okay, they look a lot like a golden eagle as a juvenile. But here's a couple of tips that will help you identify them. First of all, bald eagles are a sea eagle. They hunt fish. And because they're a sea eagle, they get their feet in the water, so their legs right here are bare. The golden eagle is what we call a booted eagle. They have feathers all the way down to the top of the foot. So if you see a yellow leg, it's a bald eagle. If you see feathers all the way down to the top of the foot, it's a golden eagle. Another great way to tell if you're dealing with a bald eagle or a golden eagle is golden eagles are very solitary. And so if you see them in a bunch, now this happens to be 3 miles from my house in Cedar City, Utah, where I live. And in this pile of eagles, we've got 30 bald eagles. You know, we have adults, white head, white tail, juvenile, adult, juvenile, adult, juvenile, 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 adult. 30 eagles in a pile. And even though this is absolutely premium golden eagle habitat, there's not a single golden eagle in the bunch. Because golden eagles don't associate with bald eagles. They're very solitary in their behavior. Now, I would rescue them. That's what I've been doing for the past over 50 years. And so this is one of my rescues. This is always the dangerous part. These guys love to bite. And I need to get control of those feet. Okay. Gotcha. There we go. And I'm going to do a hood. So for the moment. This is too small for you. But it might. They love to bite. As you can see. Yes, you do. I need a bigger hood than that one. We'll go on in. Don't you? You love to bite. Bald eagles love to bite. Here's the fun part. That is. Yeah, okay. I don't know if I can get food in it or not. Would you hand me the glove, please? Mm-hmm. This with my hand. Here.
Can you get your big towel or anything?
My baby. Stay back, please. She is a biter, and we're going to have some fun. There we go. There's my baby. There's my girl. Okay, can I take that piece, please? Sweetie, take that piece. Isn't she pretty? I love it. I love it. I do. I love it. Isn't this a beautiful little thing? Yeah. Getting a little food down, yeah? Just stay back, please. I'm okay. I know it scares you to death when I do this. But we're okay. We're just fine, huh, sweetheart? We're just dandy. Yes, we are. We're doing good. There's my pretty girl. Yeah. Did my pretty lady. Such a baby. Yes, that's my girl. There you go. Okay, can you get that? There you are, sweetheart. Go. I know. That's cool. Now this is the 4-year-old bald eagle. This bald eagle is a male, and this particular one again was hit by a car. It was hit by a car out on I-70 heading toward Denver, Colorado. Or actually Grand Junction, Colorado. Heading toward Grand Junction. Now, this particular eagle was hit by a car, and a gentleman that commutes on that part of I-70 east of Salina, Utah, saw the eagle laying off on the side of the road, didn't think very much of it. Because we all see, deer and coyotes and foxes and owls and hawks and eagles, all sorts of stuff off the side of the highway dead. That's really quite common, especially when you live out here in the West. And so he didn't think very much of it, so he just kind of figured, went back and forth on his daily commute. And about 2 weeks later, he happened to notice the dead bald eagle laying off the side of the road, and it moved. Now, eagles come down into southern Utah during the winter time, so it's dead of winter, it's January, and he saw the eagle move, and so he knew the eagle was alive. In that period of time, we had 2 snowstorms. The eagle had been buried at least twice by the snowplow. Okay, that's when I was called in. And so I drive the 150, 200 miles out to past Salina to pick up the injured eagle. And I'll be honest with you guys, the eagle was dead. Its heart just had stopped beating. So we put it in a transport box. We raced back to Cedar City to our Wildlife Rescue Center. I get it in the house. Now, let's forget about injuries for now. We've got to save its life. So now I'm dealing with hypothermia, starvation, dehydration. And so I immediately get an IV in a vein. I immediately get a feeding tube down his throat. I get my wife's hair dryer out, start blow drying the eagle, trying to warm it up, trying to get the circulation functioning properly. But the eagle has given up. It doesn't want to live. And so I could not allow the eagle to sleep. And so I actually had to sit up with this eagle, holding it up vertically with a feeding tube down his throat, giving it foods and medicines and fluids and everything, trying to will this poor little eagle to live. I sat up with this eagle for 3 days and 3 nights. After 3 weeks of intensive care, here's our eagle now. And he's out in one of our chambers with a full adult. The full adult with the solid white head. Here's our juvenile. Again, the juvenile has the black feathers in the head. It's not full adult yet. It's 4 years old. Now, it took about 4 months. After about 4 months, the eagle was ready to be returned back to the wild. Now, there's a common belief among many Native people around the world that if you say your prayers with an eagle feather, the eagle feather will carry your prayers to God. Well, an eagle has over 7,000 feathers. And so when I have an eagle ready to be returned back to the wild, we will frequently seek out individuals or organizations that could use some extra prayers and let them release the eagle. And so on this particular occasion, I couldn't think of anyone that deserved more prayers than our men and women serving in the military. So I contacted our local National Guard unit, the 222nd. They were preparing for their last deployment to Iraq. And so I talked to the commander and said, I've got this beautiful bald eagle. It's ready to be released. Would you guys like to do this before you leave? They said, absolutely. So we invited all veterans. We invited all active military, friends and family to please join us at a place called the Parowan Gap, which is 15 miles north of Cedar City. And we're out the Parowan Gap here. The lieutenant drew the short straw. He gets the opportunity to release that eagle back to the wild. Now, these gentlemen that serve in our military are the bravest men on the planet. But I'll be honest with you guys. If you look at the face of our lieutenant right here, okay, that's terror. You put a big, powerful wild eagle in somebody's arms for the first time, it's pretty intimidating. But we got this beautiful animal put back in the sky, sent him off with prayers and wishes and hopes that our men and women come home safely. So that's what I do. Now, as a wildlife rehabber here in Utah, eagles hit by cars, broken legs, broken wings, where the damage are, they come to me. I triage the bird, take the bird to my veterinarian, and in a surgical situation where everything's sterile, we fix the injury. Now, my job is to hold the eagle, monitor the eagle's vital signs, and I run the anesthesia. My vet does the surgery to fix the damage. And in a surgical situation where everything is sterile, you can't touch anything. And so I have to stand there and hold this eagle as my vet's doing the surgery, and I'm watching these half-inch long bugs crawling up my arms, up the back of my neck and into my hair. And after about 45 minutes of surgery, we take the eagle, you put him away, you get your comb up, comb all the bugs out of your hair. The turkey vulture. And the turkey vulture is beautifully designed for what it does. And what it does, it consumes dead, rotted flesh and helps to clean up rotting carcasses out in the deserts and the mountains and helps to keep disease from spreading. And I would rather they do that than me. So we love turkey vultures. They're a wonderful addition to the environment that we have here. And I know you have a lot of turkey vultures in this area. People think they're ugly because of the bald red head. Well, the red head serves a purpose. Basically, turkey vultures eat dead deer, dead sheep, dead cows, dead whatever they can find. And oftentimes they'll stick their heads inside the abdominal cavity, the guts. Well, they get blood on their head. If they had feathers on the top of the head like an eagle does, the blood would mat the feathers down. The feathers would get infected, they get sick. But with the bald head, the blood just dries, it flakes off, it helps to keep them clean. Now people ask me all the time, do birds have ears? Of course they do. And their ears located very much the same place ears of mine is. You go from the corner of the eye back to your ear. The vulture's the same way. From the corner of the eye back, here's a bird's ear. All birds are exactly the same. There's just a small hole on the side of the head. But with feathers, you can't see a bird's ear. With the vulture, you can see what a bird's ear looks like. Now, I know you've been told, do not touch baby birds with your hands, because the smell from your hand will frighten the adult birds away. This is untrue. Birds virtually have no sense of smell. Now there's always an exception. The exception to the rule is the turkey vulture here. And with its large nostrils here, it can smell a dead, rotting carcass from about 3,000 feet in the air. And that's how it finds its dinner. It rides the currents of warm rice and air. And as it's just kind of slowly gliding along, it's sniffing to see if they can smell something dead. When they smell something dead, they start circling, looking down to see if they can spot whatever it is that's dead. All the other turkey vultures say, hey, old Harold, he's across the valley. He's circling, he must smell something dead. They join up as a group, they lower themselves down to the carcass, they feed as a group, they squabble a bit, but they generally don't hurt each other. Now, how would you like to come home one day and see this sitting on the roof of your house? The California condor. The California condor, the largest vulture in North America, second largest vulture in the world. The largest is the Indian condor. The California condor, the largest flying bird in North America, second largest flying bird in the world, again the Indian condor. Now the California condor got down to 22 California condors left in the world. We brought them all into captivity, created a breeding project. I've got great news for you guys. This last year, 2019, baby condor number 1,000 fledged in Zion's National Park. Isn't that amazing? Now they're still not out of the woods. They still are in a lot of trouble. The reproductive cycle is extremely slow. They lay one egg every 2 years. They're incredibly sensitive because the gene pool is so small. Genetically, they're very delicate. But we are saving these guys. And I'm really excited about that. Now, I grew up just south of the Condor Reserve in Southern California. And as a kid, I would every once in a while see a condor flying over my home. And I loved it. 10-foot wingspans. Beautiful animal to watch soar. Well, I have seen the California condors in the Grand Canyon. I've seen them in Marble Canyon. I've seen them in Zion's National Park. I've seen them in Kolob. But to see a California condor fly over my home, about 60 miles north of Zion's National Park in southern Utah, would convince me that we're going to save these amazing animals. Well, about 5 years ago, I was driving out north of town, heading home, and I slammed the brakes of my car. I grabbed my binoculars. My wife is wondering what's going on, and here's this beautiful condor circling the alfalfa field right across the street from my house, climbing up, drifting over my home. I saw a condor fly over my home, and that convinces me that we're going to save these amazing animals. Well, about 3 days after I spotted the condor fly over my home, I get a phone call from a very, very elderly woman right in the middle of town. Mr. Tyner, I have 2 giant birds sitting on the roof of my house. They're going to eat my dogs. Okay, they're not going to eat her dogs. They're vultures, they're harmless. Number 50, number 82, the bad boys of the condor world. When number 50 was released to the wild, one day number 50 landed at the campground. And the people at the campground said, wow, look at that giant bird. Isn't that cool? Let's feed it. That's really bad. They threw him hamburger and hot dogs and barbecue, and that's really bad for them, but number 50 thought it was delicious. And number 50 has gotten very acclimated to people. It was not uncommon, if you had a picnic up on top of Cedar Mountain above Zion's, for number 50 to land on your picnic table and help himself to your lunch. If you left your cabin door open on top of Cedar Mountain, number 50 has been known to walk into people's cabins and tear the sheetrock off the walls. And number 50 loves motorcycles and ATV seats. He likes to tear them off. And on this particular occasion, number 50 brought number 82 with him. So now we've got 2 problem condors to deal with. Please, guys, do not feed wild animals. Bird feeders, hummingbird feeders, bird baths, that kind of stuff is wonderful, and I encourage you to do all of that. But do not feed the deer, do not feed the coyotes, do not feed the foxes, do not feed the birds of prey, do not feed wild animals, because what that does is that acclimates them to people, and it puts their lives in danger. Because some kind, misguided person fed number 50, both number 50 and number 82 have been trapped. They're in jail for the rest of their lives. They'll never be allowed to fly free. And the reason for that is because genetically, they're far too precious to let them get into a situation where they're going to get killed. Does that make sense, guys? Now, it is possible. A condor is capable of flying about 500 miles in a day. It is possible, because we have them coming up and down the Colorado River, to have a condor fly over Lake Havasu. And this is what I want you to watch for. First of all, it's the largest flying bird you've ever seen. Huge. 10-foot plus wingspans. They are black, black, black. Very, very long primary feathers, little fingertips spread out. But here's the dead giveaway, guys. You see that elongated white triangle under each wing? You see that elongated triangle? The only bird it could possibly be is a California condor. If you spot one of our condors, then get your binoculars out, get the number. This is number 93. You can go to the World Bird of Prey website. You can type in the number of your condor, the one that you spotted, and we have GPS trackers on them that will tell you everywhere your condor has ever gone from the day it was released to the wild. It's really cool. So if you spot a condor, please, and while you're there, notify them that you spotted it, because sometimes the transmitters do die, and sometimes there's condors missing that they want to find. So you might help us find another condor that we haven't found for a year or 2. They are beautiful animals, once you get used to them. While I've got this last condor picture up, let me tell you a little vulture story. When I was in high school, my best friend and I found a turkey vulture's nest. And we thought it'd be really cool to hike out in the coastal foothills of Southern California, climb the cliff, and take some pictures of the baby vultures. It's kind of a guy thing. I know the girls are going, what? It's kind of a guy thing. So we jumped in the truck, grabbed all of our rope and climbing gear, packed in the truck, drove out, parked the truck. Now it's an hour's walk from where we could park the truck to where we hike out to the base of the cliff. The cliff's 100 feet high. There's a rocky outcropping. The vulture's nest is on the rocky outcropping. So we start climbing the cliff. My buddy's ahead of me climbing the cliff. I'm underneath. And as he's climbing up the face of the cliff, he gets right under the vulture's nest. And he hooks in with some carabiners and pitons, grabs the edge of the ledge to pull himself up into the vulture's nest. And guess who's at the edge of the nest looking down? Mama vulture. Now, vultures have relatively soft, flat feet. They don't have the claws or talons like an eagle does. That's not how they defend their nest. And though a vulture can certainly bite you viciously, it's not how they defend their nest. A vulture has an amazing way of protecting its nest. They throw up on you. Okay, here is my buddy hanging in space, and I hear him scream. And I see this black ooze flowing down over his head. Needless to say, we did not get into the vulture's nest. We climbed down off the cliff. It is now an hour's walk back to the truck in 90-degree heat. All that stuff dried on him. He sat in the back of the truck, I drove home. Let me assure all of you, a skunk has a pleasant odor. You cannot comprehend dead, rotted flesh regurgitated. There's nothing on the planet that smells that bad. So I get him home. His mother's furious. She makes him go in the garage and strips off all of his clothes. He goes in the house to shower. His mother throws his clothes away. My friend showers and showers and showers and showers and showers. You can't wash the smell off. The entire last month of school, there wasn't a teacher that would let him in the classroom. He would have to sit outside the classroom with the doors open. There wasn't a girl in my high school that would go out with him for more than a year. And of course, we don't go into nicknames, that's just far too cruel. The reason I tell you this story, guys, is I want you to understand that a bird's nest truly is a sacred place. It's where mom and dad raise their young. And as I said earlier, human scent is not the issue, it's human activity. And so if you climb up and you look at a bird's nest, you do run the risk of frightening the adult birds. They can abandon the nest and the chicks can die. So when you come across a bird nest, and we all do, please stay back, get a pair of binoculars, watch the comings and goings. You'll see a lot more, it'll be a lot more interesting, and let mom and dad raise your young in peace. You do not receive a nickel of state or federal funding to care for these animals. This is volunteer. And I've been volunteering doing this for over 50 years. So my reward is the knowledge that there's one more beautiful animal back in the wild where it belongs. And I'll be honest with you guys, they hate me. You know, I'm the one that sticks in the IVs and pulls out the IVs. I'm the one that does the stitches. I'm the one that sticks the feeding tubes down their throat. I'm the one that does the physical therapy. When they're ready to go back to the wild, and I'm going to let him tell you in his own words what he thinks of me personally. Can't you just feel the love? Okay, that's where he belongs. The wild is wild, and the wild does not make good pets. And so to take these guys and think you're going to make a pet out of them, you're really getting a handful of trouble. We have the Mexican spotted owl. This is not the northern spotted owl in Washington State. This is the Mexican spotted owl. We have them down here. They live on the Colorado River. They're a canyon nesting bird. Not as big as a horned owl, not as pretty as the barn owl, but the babies are really cute. Kind of looks like a Furby. We have short-eared owls. Little tiny feathers on the top of the head. These we find out in the deserts and not around the agricultural areas, so they're far rarer to see. And as was spoken of already today, we love the burrowing owls. And the burrowing owls are in trouble, guys, and we need all of you guys' help. Right now, one of the biggest problems, a couple of things. First of all, habitat destruction, construction, building subdivisions and those kinds of things take up the habitat. But one of the worst problems, as it was said earlier, is using pesticides of some form for rodent control. And so if you poison animals and they get outside, birds of prey will get them. And you're going to kill a bird of prey. The burrowing owl is a great example of that. And we have problems. I've had problems up in Utah with people throwing poison grain out to kill starlings. And they'll kill thousands of starlings and they'll kill hundreds of hawks and falcons. And so we have to be extremely careful. Poison does not discriminate. It kills everybody. So please think very carefully before you do something like that. Mr. Tyner, you need to come to town. there was a vampire bat flying around someone's house. Of course, it's 2 o'clock in the morning and I am not in the mood. So I tell the gal at dispatch, I'm sorry, we are neither in Transylvania nor in South America, there are no vampire bats in Utah, I'm going back to bed. And the dispatch gal says, the police officer says, the biggest bat he has ever seen, you gotta come to town. Okay, so I get up and I get dressed and I drive the 6 miles into town. And when I get to the house where the vampire bat is, the first thing I notice is there are 6 police cars surrounding the house. Small town Utah, must have been a slow night. So I walk in the house and I walk in the living room and I see 2 police officers hiding behind the couch with their pistols drawn. The little critter flies by, I reach up and grab it and it says, it's a Pygmy Owl. It's like really cute, it's completely harmless. So after a short bird versus bat identification lesson for the police officers, we take the little guy, we give it a good meal, and we return it back to the wild where it belongs. The police officers in southern Utah that I deal with, they are courageous gentlemen. I have the utmost respect for them. They're just terrified of bats. So if you ever come to Utah and you have a bat in your hotel room, you're on your own, guys. Now here's what we're going to do. I'm going to, because we've got such a huge crowd and you guys in the back can't see very well, so if you will bear with me, I'm going to walk the perimeter with the birds. Is that okay? Now, they may poop on the floor. I've got some paper towels here, and so you'll be able to get to see them a little bit. I know Belle. She's been in her box and with us for 2 days, so she's a little bored. Aren't you, sweetie? Yes, you are. Anyway, Harris Hawk, unique bird of prey. This is the one that hunts in family groups like a pack of wolves. Look at the feet, guys. If you get a good look at these feet, what you'll see is they're huge. The talons are huge. They are razor sharp. And that's what she kills with. Now the hawks have longer legs. And because of those long legs, they can reach through the bushes. I know Belle. She can reach through the bushes to grab, ground prey like squirrels and rabbits and all of those kinds of things. And so this is my southern Belle. And that's where she gets the name Belle from. Isn't she a beautiful little thing? Now, Belle is not my only Harris Hawk that I've ever had. I had a big female Harris Hawk just like this one many years ago. And her name was Sierra, and she had a bit of a sad story. My old Harris Hawk, Sierra, she was stolen from her nest by some teenage boys. So that's really bad. Because a hawk raised by man has no fear of man. We call that imprinted. And a hawk raised by man with no fear of man can be incredibly dangerous. Because they have no fear of you. If they get mad at you for any reason, they will hurt you. So I have this big female hawk, stolen from the nest, raised by teenage boys, raised inappropriately, horribly imprinted. She was dangerous. She was also horribly abused. And she ended up with a broken leg. That's when she came to me, because I'm the guy that rescues the critters. So, I've got this big, beautiful hawk. I could fix her broken leg. But the one thing that I could not do is I could not fix the emotional scars that she carried with her for the rest of her life. That hawk was so emotionally disturbed, her favorite thing to hunt was cows. Cows. We would go out in the desert, and if there was a cow within a mile, she had to beat up a cow. She attacked horses. She attacked farmers on her tractor. She attacked joggers. Okay, she had issues. Now, needless to say, we could not put her back in the wild because she hurt people. So she stayed with me for the rest of her life as one of my wildlife ambassadors and one of my falconry birds, and she and I got along wonderfully together. Well, I grew up in a small town in Southern California. I grew up in an agricultural area. I grew up in the middle of an orange grove. I grew up in the kind of community that everybody knows everybody. And if you ever want to borrow your buddy's truck, you say, hey, can I borrow your car or truck? And your buddy would say, sure, the keys are on the floor. Little tiny, no. There we go. You found it. Okay, that's good. Can you still hear me okay, guys? Okay, great. Thank you, sir. So anyway, growing up in a small town, everybody knows everybody. you want to borrow somebody's car, and they say, sure, the keys are on the floor. You guys remember those days? Yeah, those are long gone. So, I had a real bad habit of leaving my keys on the floor of my car. I know, see, you're so bored. I know, nobody looks like a rabbit, I'm sorry. It's just the way it is. So anyway, one day my hawk and I had a little Toyota car, and she just sat on a perch in the back seat of the car. That's how we transport out to the fields, let it go fly. And so one day on our way back from a little hunting trip, we would stop at the local gas station to buy something to drink. And in the process of buying something to drink, you walk in the store, buy a soda pop, and walking out, and I heard screaming. And I saw a guy bailing out of my car. So I went running across the parking lot to get to my car, and my hawk is on the ground next to the car. So I pick her up and I put her back on her perch in the back seat of the car, and I noticed that my keys had been picked up off the floor and put in the ignition. He tried to steal my car. You know, I don't know if he saw the hawk, didn't see the hawk, saw the hawk and thought it was stuffed. I have no idea what was going through his mind, but can you only imagine? You jump into a strange car, grab the keys off the floor, put them in the ignition, and you have 8 razor-sharp talons puncturing the back of your neck, wings beating, and the most awful growl you've ever heard. There were quarter-sized drops of blood going down the street. I know he needed stitches. Going to assume that's the last car he ever tried to steal. My hawk got the nickname my feathered Doberman Pinscher. Well, I have been rescuing these guys for over 40 or over 50 years. And as I said earlier, my sweet wife Susan this February, our 42nd wedding anniversary. So I've been a falconer about 10 years longer than I've been married. Our very first date, I took her hunting with that hawk. I'm a romantic kind of a guy. So we get out to the field. I get my hawk out of the car under my glove, and as my then girlfriend but now wife approached, my hawk turned around and faced her and growled violently at her. Then my hawk turned back around facing me, lifted her tail, and pooped on her. That was our first date. She married me anyway. It's her fault. Well, my wife Susan and I have written a book. If you like animal stories, I know, sweetie, we're almost done. Come on. My wife Susan and I have written a book. If you like animal stories, this is 40 years of wildlife rescue stories and the wisdom of grandparents. The eagle on the front cover, you will get to see this eagle just in a few minutes, and I brought him with me today. In fact, on all of our books here today, my eagle has autographed the book. Okay? That's his footprint. So it's the only book in the world autographed by a wild eagle. And the profits from the sale of the book go to our rescue center to help us feed the animals. Now, in the process of writing the book, I told my sweet wife Susan, we need to put the story of the book of my old Harris Hawk, Sierra. And my wife Susan says, well, if you're going to tell everybody about our first date, you have to tell everybody about the rest of our first date. And I says, no, the story's funnier where I end the story where you get pooped on. She says, no, you got to tell about the rest of our first date. And I says, well, Susan, if you want to tell everybody about the rest of our first date, you have to write the story. So she did. So if you want to learn about the rest of our first date, why that sweet, wonderful one married me, you got to buy a book. Is that terrible? But again, the profits go to our rescue center to help us feed the animals. Does anyone have any questions before we bring out the falcon that I can answer for you? Yes, in the back. It's a peregrine falcon I brought with me, yes. Any hot questions? Yes.
When they find the babies and they bring them to you, can you not return them to that same spot?
Well, actually, usually it's too long. If it's more than a day, no, the parents won't take them back. If they bring them to me and they say, I just found this an hour ago right here, yeah, we take them back. But if they've been a day or two, the parents will no longer accept them. And so that, that makes it tough. In the very back, yes. We talked a little bit about this already. People using any forms of poisons do not discriminate. They kill everything. And so anytime that you poison rats or mice, if they do get outside, then the raptors are looking for the easiest meal. And a sick rat or mouse is an easy prey, and you end up poisoning raptors as well. And I know you don't mean to, but you do. And so please, please don't. Yes? How long can a hawk like this live? A hawk like this in the wild average 7 to 10 years. In captivity, about 15 to 20. But my previous Harris hawk died 2 years ago, and that hawk was 29 years old. And so in captivity, we can extend their life a long ways because they get guaranteed food. You know, they don't starve to death like they do in the wild. Yes?
How long does it take you usually to build a relationship if you do have a wild animal that you cannot return to the wild?
How long does it take me to develop a relationship with a wild animal that I cannot return to the wild? Well, let's keep it on birds of prey because different things are different. I could take a full-grown wild eagle right out of the sky and have it flying free and hunting with me in a month. But that's 7 days a week, many hours a day. My life is dedicated to these animals. And that's not something that you're going to do, with an hour a day. Does that make sense? And so you have to put the hours in one way or the other. And so you either, really dedicate your life to it, or you'll never be successful. That's how it goes. Well, yes.
Are these legally exported out of the United States?
Well, let me get him first. What was the question?
Are these birds legally exported out of the United States?
Are these birds legally exported out of the United States? Yes.
I've had one of those work for me.
Yes, the Harris hawk is actually a very popular bird of prey. We have them, we have them in all through Europe and England and Scotland and all kinds of places along those lines. And they've been exported out, but then captive bred in those countries. Okay. So yes. And your question, ma'am?
Are you sharing your knowledge and your skill with others so when you're ready to retire, they can pick up your job?
Retire. I've heard that word. It's kind of an odd concept. It's kind of like the word vacation. I don't really understand how that possibly works. Yes, that is a really big concern that we have with the work that I do. To be honest with you, this is volunteer. And at the moment, there's nobody dumb enough to do what I do for free. And so it's very hard to get people that have that kind of devotion to be able to do that, because my wife and I, we own a dog grooming shop. Is how we make our living, and so this is volunteer. And I have college students come up to me all the time and says, I'd like to work under you for school credit, and how much are you going to pay me? I would like to intern. And it's like, I don't get paid, what do you mean pay you? And then they're not interested. So it's really hard to find people that's dedicated to do this kind of work. Well, let me get her put back and let's bring up the falcon. Yes, there's my little falcon. Isn't she beautiful? Now this is the peregrine falcon. This is the nodding peregrine, which is the endangered species. And this one has a little problem. That's why she's with me. She's horribly nearsighted. She's almost blind. And so she cannot see well enough to go back to the wild. And so, but you can see those beautiful black eyes that she has, that all falcons have. Now again, the stripe on the peregrine falcon covers the whole head. But look at these pointy wings. I know, sweetie. Here's my girl. Those pointy wings, quick wing beats. Again, what you're looking at is the fastest animal that's lived on the planet. If you look closely, look at how long her toes are, but look how delicate they are. Compared to the hawk, which has thick, powerful feet that are crushing type feet. Her feet don't do that. Look how short her legs are, much shorter than the hawk. If she had long legs like the hawk has, that would be a problem, because with long legs, if she hit a duck or a pheasant at 200 miles an hour, her legs would break. So she has to have shorter legs in order to withstand that kind of impact. The tail is much smaller. She doesn't need as big a tail because she's going down. Her name is Helen. So at 200 miles an hour, if they had a really big tail, she'd be out of control. The rudder would just be too large in order to steer properly. Isn't she a pretty thing? Now I was called in by a breeder. She's out of the captive breeding program as well, and I was called in by the breeder that he had this peregrine, and she was nearly blind, and she couldn't see well enough. He couldn't be used for falconry. He couldn't be released back to the wild. We had a problem, and he asked if I needed another falcon for my educational programs, and I says, well, you know, I've already got 2 other falcons. I don't need a third. And so he says, well, then I'm going to have to euthanize her. Because you can't just keep them. They have to be for a purpose. And so I told the breeder, I says, well, bring her down. And so he brought her over to me, and we looked at her, and she's absolutely beautiful. Yes, you are. And, you know, one of the things I really hate, I hate when you go to a program like this, and they bring out a one-eyed, mangled wing, injured, horrible-looking animal. Does that make sense? Basically, what I want when I do my programs is I want you to look at the bird and not go, oh my God, poor thing. I want you to look at these animals and says, oh my God, she's beautiful. And so that's why, you know, she's a wonderful wildlife ambassador. We named her Helen, and the reason we named her Helen is after Helen Keller, because Helen Keller was deaf and blind, but was a wonderful ambassador for the handicapped. And Helen here is almost blind, but she's a wonderful ambassador for wildlife.
How did you determine she was blind?
How did we determine that she was almost blind? Well, because she cannot see food more than, if it's any further than 3 feet away from her, she can't find it. And so I can set a dead quail or something 4 feet away, she'll never find it. Well, it's genetic. It's genetic with her. And for those of you who've taken a close look, you can see her talons curve downward, except that one it curves upward. And that's a genetic defect. So she's kind of a genetic mess. Yes, you are, but you're beautiful anyway. And you're really a good little girl. You know, she's looking at all of you folks, but she just sees a blur. So she doesn't know who you are or what you're doing. So she's just kind of a blurry little thing. See blurs. Now, she's never allowed to fly. She could never ever be allowed to fly. Because if she were to fly around here, she'd hit walls because she can't see the buildings. Does that make sense? And so for her safety, she cannot be allowed to fly. But, you know, because she's such a good little animal, you know, she basically lives in the house, in my living room. She sits on a perch by the television, and she loves to watch the TV because she sees the colors and the movement. Does that make sense? And so that's her enrichment, and she gets to watch TV with the family. Falcon questions before we bring out the eagle. Yes, sir.
I understand weight is really important.
Yes.
What's the problem? How do you get the accurate weight? How do you do it?
Okay, the question is, that as a falconer, the motivation for these animals is food conditioning, which means that we have to monitor their weight very, very carefully, and each bird has what we call an appropriate flying weight. And now, how do we determine that? Well, basically, the way you do that is you basically feed the animal as much as it wants to eat for 2 to 3 weeks. So the animal is just as fat as possible. And then from that weight, you subtract from that fat weight, let's say 1,000 grams, you subtract 10%, which is 100 grams. And so you reduce the bird's weight by just reducing the food very little. And so the weight just very slowly comes down to that 900 grams. And that's pretty close to the bird being hungry enough that it wants to hunt. And so the more comfortable the bird is with us, the heavier we can fly the birds. And so it's not only weight control, but it's also the relationship that the falconer has with the birds as well that allows us to fly them. And like I said, these guys fly thousands of feet in the sky. And unfortunately, this one doesn't, but my other falcons, you know, go thousands of feet in the sky. They can fly away whenever they want. And so that's what makes falconry so interesting. Yes?
How do you know when you take your birds out for the first time that they're just not going to take off on you?
Well, the truth of the matter is the techniques used in falconry are more than 4,000 years old. They started in China. And in China 4,000 years ago, if you lived in a small village, you were not allowed to have anything that could be considered a weapon. So no swords, no spears, no bows and arrows, nothing you could hunt with. And so there was usually some old guy like me in most of the small villages trained in falconry, and he would take his hawk or his falcon out through the fields, catch rabbits and ducks and pheasants to bring meat back to the village. And the techniques I use are very much the same. I was trained, very fortunately, I was trained by a multi-generational Hungarian falconer. And so my style of falconry is more Eastern European in style than most of the American falconers practice today. And that style is more of an intimate, personal relationship with the birds. She is not a hunting tool. She is the hunter, I'm her dog. That's kind of how the relationship goes. And so the way that we know is that they're very intelligent and they're an opportunistic predator. They're going to take the easiest meal. They learn very quickly. If they follow me, I flush out something for them to catch. If they don't catch anything, they fly back out of my glove. I feed them anyway. That's it. Yes, sir.
When you were showing earlier, when you're swinging the thing and they catch it and you feed them.
Yes.
And you said when you make a miss, they have to go back around again.
Right.
Do you ever try to make a miss, but they make an adjustment and catch it anyway?
When I'm doing the lure training, do the birds ever win? Do they ever outsmart me? Yes, they do, and that's always really exciting. I mean, there have been times when I've done the lure work, and again, if the bird touches the lure, they win. If they touch the lure, or you drop the lure to the ground, they get their breakfast. They win, and so they're very motivated to catch that lure. And I had this one falcon who was so smart, and she figured out that I would swing the lure, I would bring the lure up as she was coming toward me, and then I'd bring the lure back down and over the top. And she would then chase the lure, pitch back up, and by then the lure was away, and she'd turn around and come back for another dive. Well, she figured that out. And so she figured out that when I swung the lure out in front of her, she's coming to me, I'd swing the lure down and up, and so she decided, I'm not going to follow the lure down and up, I'm going to fly straight across. And she hit the lure on the backside of the swing. And she was so smart, she knew how to do that. Well, I'm not going to let that falcon outsmart me. And so my decision was, I'm going to bring the lure out in front, and as she comes in, I'm going to bring the lure, and I'm going to bring her around behind me. Aha! She almost took my head off. Because she came straight across and turned. Yes, sir.
When you're actually hunting with the birds,
yes,
do you allow them to keep that prey, or do you feed them separately?
Well, basically, when they're hunting for themselves. They certainly get their share. They certainly can't eat a whole rabbit or a whole duck or a whole pigeon, so they get their share, and then the rest of the food that they catch comes back to my wildlife rescue center to feed the injured wildlife that we care for. And for like the hawk that you just saw, in 2019, her hunting season, she caught 82 jackrabbits. And so that was 82 jackrabbits coming into the rescue center as food for the injured wildlife. That's not a question. Thank you so much, everyone.